Good afternoon and Happy New Year to everyone. I just want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Lori Bumbaco. I'm an oncology dietitian and I work at the center to meet with individuals one-on-one. So if you are interested to learn more about specific advice considering your unique circumstances, please reach out to see if you're eligible. I can offer you up to 8 sessions, and we're doing this either virtually or over the phone, and it's a lot of fun. But I also am happy to announce that in just a few short weeks, we are going to start running Weight Loss for Wellness, which is a wonderful program that Debbie Cronenberger, who is a licensed counselor at the center, and myself partner on for 20 weeks. And we have a group that comes together weekly to present a variety of topics about healthy eating and weight management, stress reduction, exercise, grocery shopping. We even have a cooking demo. It's amazing. So if you're interested in that as well, contact the center. It's on the website. Katie Hull is who you will be reaching out directly to see if you are eligible, and you can attend that amazing program. So without further ado, I'd like to start today's Ask the Dietitian session, which we will be running every couple of weeks. Check the website again or the calendar on the website to see what dates those are and what the specific topics will be for each of those segments. And today's segment we thought would be appropriate because of the timeliness, that we would talk about weight management and also maybe even New Year's resolutions if you decided to make one for yourself this year. But we did have a participant submit a question, so I'd like to first start with that. And it was related to weight management. So I'm going to share my screen like I always do, and I'm going to share a Word document which will be available to those of you who are attending today. And then I will answer that question and share some additional resources with you all. Okay, so this amazing question, let me just adjust the settings. I have these fun graphics on there. So the question that was submitted, you see here, while on an aromatase inhibitor, what should I expect for weight changes and how long does it take after starting the aromatase inhibitors? Do the impact on weight begin and last? What a great question. I get this question a lot because we see there are a lot of people that experience weight gain on aromatase inhibitors. One example of an aromatase inhibitor is anastrozole or Arimidex. There are other types of drugs that are in different classes that some breast cancer survivors are placed on for management after they finish their definitive treatment for their breast cancer. And what they generally do is reduce the level of estrogen in their body. So aromatase inhibitors stop the production of estrogen. And well, here's what we see, that studies have shown that weight gain is not increased in women that take tamoxifen, which is another class of a drug that lowers estrogen, or with aromatase inhibitors. We do not see any research that supports this. So while the question is a great one, there's almost like this expectation that if I'm on an aromatase inhibitor, I'm going to gain weight. Well, the research so far has looked at this and they don't see that this is a possibility. So this is still a phenomenon that occurs. So what I do want to point out is that even though the research doesn't substantiate that there's a mechanism for why this happens, it still seems to happen. So we can't deny that that problem exists, and we need to have some support for those women that are on these drugs and experiencing some weight gain. So what I put on this handout here, you can see for yourself the major studies that have been done. They'll put women on a placebo, and then they'll put women on something like tamoxifen, and they've started to look at aromatase inhibitors as well. And they don't see a difference. Both groups gain weight, both groups don't gain weight. So the placebo versus the drug, they can't blame the drug for that. So this content I took from one of my new favorite medical oncologists. She works out of Dana-Farber, And her name is Jennifer Ligabell. And she's, as I mentioned, a medical oncologist, and she specializes in breast cancer care, but she really is a pioneer and a champion for our survivors and helping come up with great research. And there's a trial that she's involved in right now called Be Well, and they are actively recruiting participants. And so if you went on the NCI, the National Cancer Institute website, and searched for that trial, BWEL, Be Well, they are actively recruiting participants to see if using an intervention like healthy eating and exercise, if that can help manage their weight. And if that does help them manage their weight, does it help improve their outcomes? Meaning, do they live longer? Does it reduce their risk of getting breast cancer again or another type of cancer? And so this information is from what she has shared, Jennifer, Dr. Ligabell. So she thinks that many women gain weight after breast cancer or have difficulty losing weight because they were probably put through menopause even earlier than normal. So the chemotherapy or other treatment, can force women to go through early menopause. Now, what we do know is that women without cancer that go through menopause, they typically gain weight. They typically gain about 5 to 10 pounds in the years after they have their menstrual cycles stop. So what also happens is, if it depends on the individual, if the individual is on chemotherapy and unable to exercise like they have before, maybe they have neuropathies or are fatigued, or they're eating differently as a result of their treatments, this can create a change in their lifestyle, and this can cause some additional weight gain. So regardless of what might have caused the weight gain, we do know what helps women to lose weight. It helps all of us to lose weight. It's a calorie reduction. So what that means is basically to say that you're moving more and eating less, or eating better while eating less. And that can be accomplished in more ways than one. Okay, so this is an important point to make that I wanted to share anyway, regardless of this question. We do know that weight loss diets that are a reduction in calorie intake, they are nutrient dense. So they are relatively high in plant foods like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds. But we do see that other types of diets might work in terms of managing weight. So some people like to go on a low carbohydrate diet. Some people like to go on a vegetarian diet, or they'll go on Mediterranean diet. They all might work for different reasons and for different people. And so that's where working one-on-one with a dietitian can be helpful, because rather than trying to navigate all of this on your own, it might be best to work and understand personally how to pursue a plan that works best for you. Many people find, regardless of what type of plan they go on, whether it be Mediterranean or vegetarian, that if they write down what they eat, so keeping a food journal, this is really important. What this does is it first helps to establish your habits. So why do you eat? When do you eat? How much do you eat? Who are you eating with? Are there certain triggers that cause you to eat? Keeping a journal will help you realize that. And then it can help you identify where you're willing to make some substitutions or some changes. Maybe you're realizing you're not that hungry, but you're eating. This journal is a key. And we find that it's one of the best tools for mindful eating. Some people also like a structured meal plan. So some people do ask me about that. Can you give me a plan? Tell me what to eat. Give me recipes. Tell me for 2 weeks. Tell me what to eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Give me some snacks. And I can do that as well. But we do see there are plenty of commercial programs like Weight Watchers or Noom, some of you might be familiar with. This is a relatively new smartphone application that you could subscribe to, and it gives wonderful support. They are very helpful, both Weight Watchers and Noom, in helping to teach people how to modify their behaviors. So Noom does this especially. It helps you create new habits for yourself. So it's not like you're on a diet, off a diet. You're learning how to change your behaviors and keep those changes sustainable for the long term. What also Weight Watchers and Noom offer is a support component, right? So we know this about pursuing weight management. It helps to have someone else that you're going through it with, or a group of people, such as your peers, to go through the process with. It makes it that much more enjoyable, and you're more likely to stick to those changes long term. So I also wanted to just point out a little bit about New Year's resolutions. And this is some research that is published globally, actually, but I took the US responses so that you can see this for yourself. So our top New Year's resolutions are listed here. So a lot of us, maybe as a result of the pandemic, we found that we weren't exercising as much as we'd like to. So for the first time, I think this is the largest percentage of New Year's resolutions came from people wanting to exercise more. Not surprisingly, people also want to eat healthier. And you see fourth on the list there is to lose weight, right? That almost always is a New Year's resolution on people's list. But I want to point out, how do we lose weight, right? So kind of going back to Dr. Ligabell's suggestions about how to pursue a plan that works best for you. Well, I just want to, I think New Year's resolutions that involve weight loss often involve some sort of diet, right? And especially fad diets. So I thought I would just quickly go through our history, our American love story with the fad diets. I don't know why, but they've always been in our life for some reason or another. But here are some examples of fad diets in the past. And really the best way to spot them is to see what they promise. Do they seem to promise something that's a quick fix and something that sounds unrealistic, like to lose 20 pounds in a month? That maybe that's probably not sustainable, and that could potentially be detrimental. And the worst part about some of the fad diets are that I think personally, what happens is that a person is probably destined to fail on a fad diet, right? Maybe they lose weight, but then they regain more weight back, and they blame themselves instead of the diet, when it's the diet's fault, right? It's nothing that that person did or didn't do. We can't expect people to live up to these unrealistic expectations that fad diets promise. So let's start first with Cato the Elder. So this was a Roman statesman, and he promoted the cabbage and urine diet. And yes, it is exactly what it sounds like. So he promoted people to eat a lot of cabbage and then also to drink urine from either people that were eating a lot of cabbage or their own. And that this was going to be the cure-all for basically everything, including weight management. I think we know better now that that's not sensible or healthy to approach. In the late 1800s, in the Victorian era, there were arsenic diet pills. So there were diet pills that were kind of just advertised as this miracle cure, right? That promised to speed up metabolism. But what they didn't disclose was that some of those pills had arsenic in them. We know that would be very dangerous and lethal for some. In the early 1900s, there was a fad diet called the tapeworm diet. Again, it is what it sounds like. So people would literally ingest tapeworms in order to decrease nutrient absorption, to promote vomiting, as well as diarrhea in order to lose weight. Obviously, very, very dangerous and not advised. Reach for a Lucky diet. So Lucky was a brand of cigarettes, and the idea here in 1929 is that if you reach for a Lucky, you won't reach for a sweet. Or light up a Lucky and you'll never miss sweets that make you fat. So obviously we don't want to use tobacco as a reason to not be eating. Sleeping Beauty diet. I didn't know about this one. And in preparing for today, I came across this and I just couldn't believe what I was reading. So again, it is what it sounds like. So women especially were taking sedatives, things like Xanax in order to sleep. So because they were sleeping, they wouldn't be eating, but they would sleep for 20 hours a day. Obviously very dangerous and very psychologically unhealthy way to approach food and your weight. Good old Dr. Atkins, can't believe it was in 1972 when he first came out with this, but he promotes a high fat, high protein diet, real low carb. But we know that some of the saturated fats in our diet in excess are not healthy for us. And it's not necessarily the only way to create a calorie reduction. The Master Cleanse, so good old hot water, lemon juice, maple syrup, and cayenne. The idea here is that this cleanse would help speed up metabolism and help create some weight reduction. You know, as long as your kidneys and your liver is working properly, then we don't need any additional help to cleanse our body. So something like this, I think just to me sounds really unpalatable, but also probably not sustainable. So here's the scoop on New Year's resolutions. About half of us make at least one of them, yet only 8% of us stick with them for more than a few months. Why is that? I mean, is that a surprise to anyone? I probably not. But the reason why we are unable to keep our resolutions, there's more than one reason. It's really hard to change habits. It's really hard to change. And if we are expecting to do this relatively quickly, we're probably not going to be successful. Also, there usually is a focus on a specific goal or outcome. So like I shared, someone might make a resolution to lose 20 pounds by February, and that's unrealistic, right? And then what happens is we're not going to stick to it because we haven't accomplished that unrealistic goal. Or it might be something that it's not meaningful, or there's no kind of sense of purpose for that resolution, right? So to lose weight, I think if it doesn't produce the results that you're looking for, but then it also doesn't really mean anything to you, so something like maybe your health, maybe you don't feel better, even though you lost the weight. Maybe your health and how you feel, your energy levels, that's more important. So that would be a more purposeful goal to set for oneself. Now, we do know that the pandemic has created a lot of challenges for people to sustain a healthy lifestyle. And so even today, there is much uncertainty, not only with COVID-19, but also life in general. There's a lot of uncertainties. We have no guarantee. And so we have to just recognize how necessary it is to set realistic goals then, considering these uncertainties. So we want to build healthy habits. Okay, that's my big takeaway from today, that I hope everyone understands that a New Year's resolution is not building a healthy habit, right? So any time of the year, we have the opportunity to build a healthy habit. And healthy habits basically are those actions that are done unconsciously. So they really become second nature. They're like automatic. They just are what we do day to day. And that makes life that much more easy to live and much more peaceful, in my opinion. So we want to change our approach especially with weight management, and shift the focus instead on changing to healthier habits. So how do we build healthy habits? We want to start small. Okay, so this may sound silly to some of you, but any change that we make, we want to achieve it, because imagine how that empowers ourselves and how we can build a lot of confidence and gain momentum, so that small change adds up to a big, significant difference in just a short matter of time. So it may seem ridiculous as I put on the Word document. A good example of a small goal or a small change for a healthy habit would be to eat one single, even a baby carrot. Just eat one. That's your goal. Chances are you're going to accomplish that. And when you do, then you're ready to tackle the next one. And then that single carrot, day by day by day, becomes routine. And then you can add on to that. So then you can have 2 carrots day by day by day. And then you're more likely to accomplish a healthy habit. Now, we talk a lot in our Weight Loss for Wellness group about SMART goals. So SMART goals, there is a link here, example of a SMART goal that you'll be able to see for yourself. When you click on that link, it'll bring you towards a nice worksheet. It's actually from Quaker Oats that I happen to like. And it gives you examples of how to create SMART goals for yourself. So if you're looking to develop these healthy habits, I would suggest taking a look at that template. So SMART goals are an acronym for goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So these SMART goals are really a key component towards building healthy habits. So we first want our goals to be specific, okay? So instead of saying something like, I won't eat any more sugars, or I'm gonna stop eating sugar, that's a little too broad, right? A little too general. So we wanna set a more specific goal, like I will replace the ice cream that I eat for dessert with fresh fruit at least once this week. Another small goal, right? Specific and small. So it's not unrealistic. Replace ice cream with fresh fruit at least once this week. Now imagine the progress that happens as soon as you start doing something like that. What else is helpful for SMART goals is to make them measurable, okay? Because then we can evaluate our success. So instead of saying something like, I'm gonna walk more, you would set a goal instead for, I'm going to walk 2 days a week for 15 minutes each walk. That's measurable. So then you can see for yourself, how well did you do at accomplishing that realistic SMART goal? SMART goals are also attainable. Okay, this is sort of important, and this is where I offer a lot of help with individuals that I work with. So instead of saying something like, I'm gonna run a marathon, you might wanna set a goal to train for a 5K walk within 3 months. That's much more attainable. Same goes with realistic goal setting. So instead of eating a salad every night for dinner, that's a lot of work, isn't it? Set a goal for, I'm gonna eat a salad one more time per week than I already do. And lastly, time bound. Okay, so we wanna see that there's a goal, an end goal in sight, so that you can evaluate your progress and then continue on with your habit. So instead of saying something like, I'm gonna eat some vegetarian meals, you would set a goal that on Sunday, I am going to plan and prepare for 2 vegetarian meals by the end of the week. And those are some examples of SMART goals. Now, the other tips I like to point out is a lot of people, when they're building habits, they find it helps to play what we call piggyback. So you're going to piggyback a new habit onto an already existing habit or behavior. So use the when and then approach. So when you brush your teeth, then you'll do 10 squats. That's hard to do, right? But I bet you could do it. When you eat dinner, then eat at the table. So you attach the two together, okay? I just got off the phone with a gentleman who is, when he washes the dishes, he actually marches in place. So every time he washes the dishes or even washes his hands, which he's doing that a lot nowadays, he's marching in place. That's a great example of when and then. Include a reward. So very often, as humans, we like to feel a sense of accomplishment. So what happens with weight loss is that it may take time for the reward to actually happen, for you to actually lose weight. So focus on something immediately that you can reward yourself, like an increase in energy. So let's say you went for a walk. Were you able to take a walk faster this week? And how did that give you more energy this week? Because you might not lose any weight from one week to the next. But if you notice this reward from doing these behaviors, then you're more likely to continue to do it. I have a lady who buys jewelry for herself when she accomplishes her SMART goals. I kind of like that one. Layer in support, I mentioned this earlier. So when other people in our environment push us in directions to accomplish healthy habits and pursue changes to our behaviors, we are more successful at doing them. So having a partner who keeps you accountable or who you keep accountable or being involved in a group is really helpful in pursuing changes. And then lastly, planning to fail. Yes, I said it, plan to fail. Because it's destiny, right? We're going to fail. We make mistakes and we call these setbacks or lapses, right? So we don't want to relapse. We just lapse. We make a little mistake. We get right back on track. But the important component of planning to fail is acknowledging them, that they are expected, that they're normal, and that we're going to have a plan so that we can rebound from them. Okay, we call this self-compassion. So we want to be kind to ourselves when we make mistakes and just learn from them and move on. So I mention all of these things because this basically is the foundation of our Weight Loss for Wellness program. Essentially, Debbie and I work week by week with participants in unique and specific ways that are meaningful for them to set these types of SMART goals so that they can modify their behaviors. And then what happens after a few weeks, after 10 weeks, after 20 weeks, they start to notice that they become a new habit for themselves. And that as a result, they've happened to lose a little bit of weight in the process. And so the focus is not so much on that scale, but rather on behaviors. And in doing this, it makes it that much more fun for themselves, and they still see the results that they're looking for. And chances are those results are going to stick around for a long time. So I have on this handout here a link to see more information about weight loss for wellness. There still is time to register and to join in our group. We are actively recruiting at the moment. We also have on here a nice little reminder of what SMART goals are. So keep in mind with those New Year's resolutions that we want to rather change habits by creating SMART goals. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share and see, I know we have about